everybody, welcome back to another episode of Sessions with Paola. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about modern dating, online dating, and I'm going to break it down for you. I'm going to talk about, right, like what is the story that we bring with us when we start a relationship. I'm also going to talk about assumptions and expectations and how to date intentionally and mindfully. So guys, one of my favorite people, Esther Perel, she talks about dating being about beginnings and ends. But what I notice is that we're kind of hitting the fast forward button. Quickly, we make the effort to connect with someone. We're already exchanging energies. There's some type of connection. And in 2 days, everything that you imagine when you actually meet the person and you feel disappointed kind of disappears. Alexandra Solomon, who's also an amazing psychologist, talks about relationships being a classroom. But our first classroom is our family of origin. And that takes me to my first point. I want you guys to really explore, what am I bringing into the relationship? Remember that your parents are your first relationship role models. They are the people that not only model love, but also make you feel loved. So if you grew up in a household where there was some neglect, abuse, or inconsistent signs of love and affection, you're gonna start to mistrust, and you may question people's intent as you get older. If you grew up in survival, for example, you are going to experience something good, but then you're gonna worry, what if this good thing does not last? In my intake with all of my clients, I kind of explore, how were your needs met when you were a kiddo? How did your parents show affection? How did they deal with conflict? Because I want you to bring aware that we all bring stories into the first interaction with someone new. The second thing that I want to talk about is assumptions and expectations. Guys, we make so many assumptions about the person that's sitting right next to us because I believe that we're all afraid of getting hurt. We're afraid of the uncertainty that comes with online dating. So what we often do is that we ask questions to see if you're gonna meet my needs, and it feels like a job interview. And then other things that come up is that I'm asking questions, but I'm kind of connecting the dots as you're talking. And I often hear people say, well, I'm just looking for the right one. But then that becomes a little bit too outcome driven versus value motivated or guided by your intentions. What I mean by being motivated by values, remember, values is what matters to you. Wanting connection, wanting a companionship. Values are things that you're guided by and that you manifest regardless of a specific outcome. So when we can see it that way, when you're sitting in front of somebody, it's not so much about, okay, what is this person saying? Are they narcissistic? Are they gaslighting me? We have all these labels, but more, how is my body feeling? Am I comfortable with you? Can I laugh with you? Is this interaction feeling good? Expectations, guys. Expectations set us for failure and disappointment. You know, I live in Miami, so there's a big Latina culture here. So I often hear people say, well, I was really interested in this guy, but you know, he's supposed to make the first move, which I find really interesting because as women, we're so empowered. Yet when it comes to relationships, we fall back into those traditional roles. I always encourage people to, if you're interested in someone, make that known, because then that's when the game starts. If you reach out, then I reach out, and then too much stuff goes on. Last but not least, guys, I want to talk to you a little bit about how to date mindfully and intentionally, but I want to make sure that we have a couple of things in mind. Online dating communication often happens via text or through the app. And remember that that takes away 90% of communication, because a big chunk of communication is tone of voice and nonverbals. The other thing that happens is, one of the things that I really enjoy, anticipation, mystery, the wonder, the unknown, but because we need safety and there are other ways to keep yourself safe on a first date, we start Googling the person. We look at their whole Instagram. We know their life even before we meet them. And so when we meet them, we may quickly get disappointed. I also believe, guys, take pauses if you need to. If you went out with someone and you guys had sex, and you know, naturally humans, we start to imagine, what would it be if I have a relationship with this person? And all of a sudden that person ghosts you or just completely disappears off the map. and now you have a person that's super available, you're gonna question, right? So take those pauses, turn off the app for a little bit, go out with your friends, take a breather. How many of us start a new interaction when we haven't even recovered from the last one? Or use online dating to avoid uncomfortable feelings that were caused for previous interactions. The other thing that I want to suggest, novelty. Guys, we all know that routine and monotony can get boring, and then we start to associate dating to a negative experience. We feel drained, and it just feels like we go to eat, the job interview, I'm asking you all those questions. So I would suggest go on a walk, go to the beach. There's something really interesting that happens when people are side by side. I see it in my sessions all the time. People tend to be a little bit more open when they're not looking at one another. Go to an escape room, do an activity together. Novelty is gonna keep you excited and it's gonna keep you interested. And guys, remember that the only control you have is how you show up, right? Don't look at it as rejection, but more incompatibility. You're gonna be people that you're just not compatible with. And I wanna leave you with some questions. These are my reflective questions that I want you to ask. And guys, the other thing that I'm thinking about before I go to the questions is a lot of the times, somebody may say, hey, I'm just looking to hook up. I just want to have sex. I'm not ready for a serious relationship. But then the other person starts to say, but, they pick me up and they bought dinner and they contact me every day. So maybe they must want a relationship. Don't make that assumption. Ask if that's really the case. And then people may say, I took off all my apps. And the silent expectation that you did the same, no. Dare to ask uncomfortable questions. Sometimes we don't ask or take the risk because we're afraid of what the answer may be. So guys, some reflective questions that I'm gonna leave you with. Some of these are adapted from Alexandra Solomon's work. Some I kind of modified and switched. So on a first date, guys, so grab a little piece of paper and pen, or maybe grab your phone and answer these questions as I'm reading them out loud. On a first date, I hope to feel, and if I did, I would know because. On a first date, I don't like it when I feel blank. On a first date, I worry most about. I would enjoy myself more if I could let go of. And on a first date, I want to remember that. So fill in those blanks. And the last question would be, something that I will continue working on for myself is. Remember, guys, that you have the power within to really show up the way that you desire. And don't lose hope. Stay in the game, but take everything that I talked about today so that you can date in a more intentional and mindful way. Thank you guys so much for listening. Remember that if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do. And I believe in the power of community. So if you have anybody that can use the information, send it to them. And I always welcome questions, situations, sharing with me so that I can answer them in my episodes or on my Instagram. Bienvenidos.